A father, who's divorced from his wife, visits his daughters to see them. The little girl shows her dad her drawings, and on the way, he tells them he's gotten a new house and plans to take them there for a holiday. That evening, at dinner, the girls start asking him why he divorced their mom. When he says it was because he couldn't get along with her, the little girl gets upset, gets up from the table, and leaves. Before bed, the father plays with his daughter using shadows and light to entertain her before she sleeps. The next day, while they're in the car heading out for a trip, the girls spot a house with all its furniture up for sale and marked for auction. They beg their dad to stop and let them look. The little girl's attention is caught by a strange wooden box. She picks it up, hoping her dad would buy it. But suddenly, from behind the house's window, a worried-looking sick person seems to notice her holding the box and looks like they want to warn her. That night, the girl wakes up in the middle of the night and opens the box. She digs through the strange, junky stuff inside, but her eyes land on a special ring. She slips it onto her finger, then falls back asleep. The next morning, the little girl is startled awake by her older sister's screams. Apparently, a strange insect had gotten into her room and landed on her bed. Her father quickly dispatches it with a slipper. The little girl starts behaving oddly. She develops a habit of waking up at night and opening the box. One day, her dad walks into her room to call her for lunch. He notices something odd. The mirror inside the box shows her face as ugly and frightening. Curious, he steps closer to see his daughter's real face, and to his surprise, it's perfectly normal. It's like his mind is playing tricks on him.
In the next scene, at the lunch table, the little girl is behaving strangely. She's eating her food super fast, kicking her legs around, and her behavior is all over the place. When her dad warns her about it, she suddenly grabs the fork she's eating with and presses it tightly into his hands. It's like she's no longer in control of her own actions. That night, while she's asleep, the mysterious box opens on its own, and creepy insects start crawling out of it. The older sister is in the bathroom, washing her face and brushing her teeth, when she suddenly hears a strange noise, and opens the glass cabinet where her toiletries are kept. She's met with a swarm of bizarre insects. She screams and yells, and her dad quickly realizes something's wrong. She points to her room, telling him the bugs must have come from there. When he finally opens the door to the girl's room, he's faced with a ton of insects all over the place. Somehow they've managed to escape the box. The girl is there, staring blankly, with the box open in front of her, frozen in shock. The next night, after all that chaos, the dad calls his daughters but finds out they're not coming home because their friend is throwing a party and they're staying there instead. Driven by curiosity about the mysterious box, the dad sneaks into his daughter's room and opens it up. He checks inside, expecting to find something strange, but to his surprise, it's just a bunch of junk, trash, and a filthy mirror, nothing else. Later that night, the girl is seen in the bathroom looking unwell. She's coughing and seems like something is stuck in her throat. She tries to shine a flashlight down her throat to see better, but suddenly she sees two terrifying fingers deep inside her mouth, and then they vanish in an instant. The next day at school, while she's doing her homework, one of her classmates snatches her bag to see the box she brought to school. The girl quickly notices and reacts with intense violence, hitting her classmates so hard that the school principal has to call her parents to discuss her strange behavior. One night, a school teacher stays late at the school because she's overwhelmed with work. The school principal is also holding on to the creepy box for now. Suddenly, a strange noise comes from inside the box. Curious, the teacher goes to check it out, but she can't open the box no matter how hard she tries. At the same time, blood starts pouring from her eyes and nose, and she feels an awful sensation wash over her. Panicking, she tries to leave the classroom, but an evil force from behind suddenly grabs her, throws her to the ground, and begins to beat her. Out of nowhere, she's hurled out of the classroom window and falls to the outside. The next day, the girl's father is at a restaurant talking with his daughter about the box. He notices she's become really attached to it. Since she got her hands on it, her behavior has turned aggressive and rebellious. Without telling his daughter, he quickly takes the box and throws it far away into some unknown, barren place, hoping to get rid of it once and for all. That night, the girl is upset and snaps at her dad, asking why he took the box away. As her father tries to calm her down, something supernatural happens. An unseen force strikes her, hitting her with a strange, violent force. She thinks her dad is the one doing it, and suddenly she runs out of the house crying, fleeing in tears, with her dad chasing after her. In a very bizarre twist, the girl somehow finds the box again, like some evil force is guiding her. She places it under a street lamp, and it's as if a demonic voice whispers to her, urging her to surrender her body to its control. Despite her saying no, a swarm of bugs rushes into her mouth, and she collapses to the ground unconscious. Her father quickly finds her and takes her to her mother so she can be looked after. The next day, the girl, with a strange expression on her face, stares at her stepfather. When her stepmother tries to talk to her, the girl shows her a tooth she's holding in her hand. Suddenly, she feels sick. To hide her ugly, distorted face from the man, she quickly turns away. The man notices something's wrong, but tries to talk to her. To everyone's shock, her real, normal face suddenly appears, like some supernatural force has lifted the curse.
But the father doesn't give up. He takes the box to a specialist in the supernatural and occult. After some research online and watching related videos, he discovers that the box contains a spell tied to a demonic entity from Jewish mysticism, one that has infiltrated his daughter's body and is feeding off her, trying to completely take over and destroy her. Determined more than ever, he grabs a Torah and tries to read from it, hoping that maybe he can banish the evil spirit from his daughter. But suddenly, as he's reading, some dark force throws the book across the room. That's when he realizes just how powerful and evil this thing really is. He immediately rushes to contact a Jewish religious leader, an elder rabbi, to get help. He tries to explain the situation and asks for guidance. But as soon as the rabbis hear about the box, they refuse to help him. They say it's too risky. Whatever's inside is dangerous, and they don't want to face it. The father pleads and begs, but it's no use. Feeling hopeless, he leaves, until one of the rabbis, moved out of compassion, agrees to help him. Meanwhile, the girl stays at her mother's house. One night, her mother hears strange noises coming from the kitchen. When she goes to check, she notices something terrifying. Her daughter is acting animalistic. She opens the fridge and throws out all the food like some wild beast, spilling it all over the floor and eating what she can. The girl quickly runs away from her mother and refuses to show herself. But suddenly, behind her mother, she turns green, like some sinister force trying to hurt her. When her mother turns around, the girl suddenly calms down, curling into her mother's arms. She throws the small glass bottle she's holding, like the creature inside her is controlling her, stripping her of her will. In the next scene, her stepfather sees the girl again, standing silently and watching him. Out of nowhere, the sky darkens with a storm, and the girl stares at him in a terrifying way. Suddenly, he begins to suffer. His mouth fills with blood, and he starts to hurt all over. He screams and runs away, terrified. But just then, the girl convulses and collapses to the ground. It's clear that this demonic presence is feeding off that man's life force. The father and the rabbi realize they have to act fast if they want to save her. They rush her to get a CT scan, and to everyone's shock, the images show a horrifying creature clearly inside her body, an evil entity feeding off her right beneath her skin. The father arrives just in time to help the rabbi perform an exorcism and save his daughter. But when the rabbi touches her head, she suddenly shakes her head violently, as if the spiritual energy is hurting her.
They head down to the basement of the hospital to prepare for the exorcism. As part of the ritual, they take a family photo and even cut a lock of the sister's hair, things required for the ceremony. But just as they begin the exorcism, the evil entity inside the girl suddenly takes over, and with incredible force, it grabs the rabbi, throwing him across the room. The demon quickly escapes, and everyone races after it. The father chases the creature into the hospital's morgue where they've brought the girl. Using his phone's flashlight, he carefully scans the room. He spots her at the far end, head down, arms crossed. She seems to be trying to hug him, to protect him. But suddenly, the lights go out. When they flick back on, the girl's face has transformed into that of a demon, and she lunges at her father. Then, unexpectedly, she suddenly recovers. Her face shifts back to normal, and she begs her father for help. Her mother, sister, and the rabbi arrive just in time to see her in her father's arms. Seizing the moment, the rabbi begins a special exorcism ritual. During this intense moment, the girl's condition improves, and her father's face contorts as he becomes possessed by the demon. In the climax of the exorcism, the father is pulled toward the wall. Suddenly, the demonic creature bursts out of his mouth, slowly crawling on the ground, entering the cursed box, which then snaps shut. The chaos finally ends, and the girl hugs her father tightly. After all that, the family comes back together, reunited, stronger than before, and the parents rekindle their love. But in the final scene, as the rabbi is driving with the cursed box into his vehicle, a heavy car crashes into his car. The rabbi dies in the accident. The movie ends with the camera showing the box falling to the ground, shattered, while his destroyed vehicle smolders nearby.